Hello, my friend, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Fool Writes Again, the podcast where I, Jinx, your host and imaginary friend, continues to answer the burning question of what happens when you release a writer into the wild and he gets a chance to explore the world of street art. So have you ever been interested in topics such as world building, character creation, plot development, and even character motivation? Then this is the podcast for you, so please stay tuned. And as I said, this episode will continue my street art series. Imagine you're planning to hop on a cruise ship and go on a 7-day adventure, but before that you arrive in your town a couple days early because you don't want to miss your ship and you're afraid that if you booked your flights too late, there would be some kind of delay that would keep you from boarding that cruise ship. So you arrive early and now you're wandering around town because you don't know anything about it. You find one of the major markets there and wander through, and you see a whole bunch of cool things. You see people tossing fish around, you see different shops and vendors and unique things, and you wander out of the place and you turn down an alley hoping to get to a new part of town. And as you continue walking down the stairs, you turn to your right and suddenly there is a giant wall with what appears to be chewed up pieces of gum stuck to it. And from what you see, there is all sorts of gum on there, and they are all varieties of colors. What happens next? If that one's a little too disgusting for you, how about this scenario? Imagine you decided to visit a foreign country and your tour starts the next day. You're there early because, again, you don't want to miss your trip and you arrived super early. You're wandering around and near the beach, so you decide to walk down there. Your hotel is pretty close to it. You wander down the steps, and as you keep going and descending the steps, you see that every free space of wall has been painted in some design. Looking at the designs pretty closely, you see that there is a Instagram handle associated with every single one of them. Some of them appear to be the same, some of them appear to be different. You pull out your phone, open up Instagram, and start searching the handles, and you see every one of those handles is associated with a different portfolio. What happens next? Alright, if neither of those scenarios are quite your style, how about this one? Imagine you're a young kid who've spent all day in school doodling in your sketchbook. And one day, your friend snags your sketchbook and tells you you have a real talent for drawing. You know that already, but you're a little disappointed in life because you don't really have a way to express that and get your art out there. And you tell him this, and he tells you he has a fix for that. Just meet him after school. Class ends, and a couple hours later, school ends, so you meet up with them. You're not sure what's going on, but you trust him because you've been friends for a while now, and he has no reason to lie to you. He tells you to follow along. And as he's going, he grabs a bag. You ask what's in the bag. He says, don't worry about it. You'll find out soon enough. And soon, he starts leading you to downtown, and then he leads you to a couple alleyways, and he leads you to another alley, and you reach a place that has a lot of art on the wall already. He opens up his bag and he pulls out several cans of spray paint. You're questioning this because you've heard graffiti is wrong and illegal. But he tells you that there's an interesting law in this town, and that is there are several alleys that are designated as graffiti walls, meaning that the town has allowed individuals to tag those walls with their art. And it is completely legal to do so. So you pull out one of the cans of spray paint, still hesitant, but again, he's your friend, so why would he lie to you? And you start tagging your own design onto that wall. What happens next? Alright, if those scenarios aren't quite up to your standard, and you're looking for something slightly different, how about this one? Imagine you're a young kid who just moved to a new city, and your school has a lot of fountains surrounding it. And one day you're sitting out there at lunch, just eating by yourself because you haven't made any friends yet, when you see a whole bunch of kids playing in one of the fountains. The city themselves had turned the fountains off because there was a drought going on, so it's just kind of a whole bunch of square blocks and concrete blocks protruding from the ground. You see, all these kids are running around them, jumping from block to block. As you sit there watching, you're very intrigued, though you notice something. There is one gap in those fountains that the kids aren't going across, and you wonder why. So you go down there after watching for a little bit longer, and you realize it's a pretty far jump, and none of the kids seem to be interested in trying to make that jump. And you think to yourself, this is the chance. This is how you are going to make friends. You hop up there, you climb across the different fountains and things to get to the top, and you prepare yourself. And as you're standing there, you realize the surrounding area has come to a complete hush. All eyes are on you. You now have an audience as you're attempting something that no one else is dumb enough to do. You start to run, get to the end, and you take the leap. And you land on the other concrete block. What happens next? Alright, that's enough with the scenarios for now. Let's get to the story behind them. As you may have gathered from the last episode and from my series in general, I'm a big fan of the creative arts, and that includes art of every variety and flavor. I love the written word, I love statues, I love paintings and everything like that. I love the unique things that towns have to offer, because art is amazing, and street art is some of the best stuff out there because most of it is created by the everyday person and the regular dude that doesn't have much fame to their name. And some of it is a variety and mixture of multiple people. For example, that gum wall, it truly is a real place in the States. And I'm willing to bet that one person did not chew all that gum and place it there. That is a mixture of a lot of people chewing a lot of gum and placing it against the wall. I'm sure when it started, it was one person or a couple of people chewing a lot of gum and sticking it against the wall to get to a point where it was large enough to be inspiring. At that point, it was easy to probably convince others to stick gum against the wall because they saw, oh look, this is where people are disposing of their gum, and now there's 50 pieces of gum there, and oh look, let's just add another because no one will notice it, and this is just what happens. And now you have 51 pieces, and soon more people come by adding their gum to the wall, and 100 pieces of gum, 200, 1,000. It just keeps building because people walk by and see this is where people are putting gum. Then it gets to the point where it's so famous that this gum wall is just known as a tourist destination and people want to add gum to it. So they visit the city themselves to visit the wall specifically and add a piece of gum to it. And people are coming around the world to stick gum to the wall and just make it grow. It is a very disgusting thing, and I have never added gum to the wall, but I've seen it numerous times, and it is a very unique thing, though, because I can say I've never seen a gum wall in another place. Now, I have no idea how the gum wall actually originated, and I have no idea how it continued to be a thing. Really, it doesn't make sense that the city let it stay. At some point, I imagine the city considered cleaning it up because it's just a whole bunch of gum stuck to a wall. It's not even gum in a pattern. If they had managed to make a mural out of the gum and draw designs, I could see that being a thing, and it remains. But it's not. It's really just a random variety of gum. And it just now probably became such a big thing that the city refuses to clean it up because the town and the people would riot if the gum wall disappeared one day. You can play with that in a story and make it your own. You can have the wall out there as just some world building element of it existing as a landmark, and your people and main characters and sub characters just meet up there every now and then. Or you can have it as a plot point where the wall disappears one day and it's cleaned up, and what does your town folk do when their major attraction disappears. Who made it happen, and why did they allow it to happen? Possibilities there. But enough with the gum wall. Let's move to the next scenario. I have been to a couple cities and lived in them where it truly is legal to paint and tag a couple walls in the town. The city itself has tried to keep it clean and regulate it, and they figured that if they allowed individuals to tag a couple walls, that they would not tag the other places. So you have your legal graffiti alleys. It's a cool idea, and you get some unique art if you visit those alleys. As a young kid, I was very concerned when I first got to a town and learned that you could actually spray paint a wall. It intrigued me because it's something I'd never done, but I'd seen it everywhere. And as I sat there with my friends one day, I was very concerned that what they were doing was going to get everyone in trouble because they're spray painting a wall. But legitimately, the city allowed it, and my friends knew that, and they eventually convinced me that it was legal to spray paint those walls and add your own art to the mural that's being created by everyone. It's very unique and very controllable. It makes sense, honestly, why the city would allow it too. They know it's going to happen regardless. You're not going to find a city where there is no graffiti in it because you have the creative folks that live in the city. And you have the rebellious teenagers that want to make their mark on the world and rebel against society. So they tag different places, and it's going to happen. So if the city wants to control that, why not make certain things legal? If you're going to write about it, why not create a city that allows that? And just add into your world building. It doesn't have to represent anything major. As I said with the gum wall, it could be a landmark where people just visit the visit Graffiti Alley, and we're going to meet up for this deed, or it's a hobby of one of your characters that they just want to tag street art. So they frequent Graffiti Alley whenever they get the chance. Maybe there's now a war in Graffiti Alley where two people are going back and forth and trying to get the best design, and they're covering up other people's art as they make their design bigger. Maybe they're covering up each other's art. And as your main character goes back to see, hey, look, how's my piece doing? Or if there's anything new, he realizes it's gone. So he paints over it with something else, and then comes back later and realizes his piece has been painted over again. It's a lot of possibilities there. And you can use it for, again, world building, or you can use it as a plot device. Whole bunch of possibilities and things to make it fun. But it's probably something you never really considered when writing. People don't always take into consideration the art pieces around town. And they're everywhere. It exists. If you want a realistic looking town, you have to throw in some graffiti every now and then. Because it, again, exists everywhere. If you find a truly clean city with no spray paint on it, you may have to have some good explanations for why there's no spray paint. Is your city just going out every night and cleaning away all the paint all the time? And that is someone's entire job, is to clean up spray paint? That is a way to world build too. I'm saying why there is no street art in existence in your town. But if you're going to try to get a realistic town, include it in there. You don't have to reference it often. It's very easy to ignore it. People do it everyday life. You wander through your town. How much do you actually see the graffiti around you? Are you paying attention to it? Can you tell me how many pieces you've actually seen in one day? I know you're not actually counting it. You probably will now that I mention it. But honestly, it is easy to fade into the background. So it's easy to fade into the background of your story and your world. Your character might recognize a piece or two because they like the style, it stands out, or it's very vibrant and bright, and it will drown out all the other pieces. But it's nothing major. It's easy to blend in, but it makes it a realistic town. And realism helps your reader get absorbed into your world because they can relate. And then you throw something at them that is harder to relate to. I mentioned in the last episode, and I'll mention it again. When I visited Peru, every mural and piece of street art, graffiti I saw in multiple cities was tagged with an Instagram handle. That's not common where I'm from. Where I'm from, people don't want them to be easily traced. Yes, they may have a certain style that others can find, and they'll recognize, hey, look, so-and-so must have painted this mural, and they're the same person that painted this mural over on that street over there. But they're not easily to trace, saying, hey, so-and-so painted this, and here's their portfolio to see everything else they've done, because it's not always legal, and they don't want to be tracked down saying, hey, look, this is all the places I've been illegal in and done illegal stuff, because why would they? So if you want to go that route, why not make it be that your town has legal muralists that are allowed to go through and paint different things on the walls? And maybe your town commissioned the artists to paint different things, and it's legal, so they put their handle there in their portfolio. And maybe it's not. Maybe they are begging for trouble and are putting their handle anyway because they like living on the edge. In a world of street art, you're going to get all varieties of it. You have your people who are legally doing it and painting in their alleys that are legal from the city, and they're doing their commission art pieces from the city on different larger walls. But then you're also going to have the people who aren't doing it legally. They're going to tag the side of a building, the side of a bridge, and they're trying to do it in places that will get them noticed, but they're not going to advertise that it was them. So again, going with that realism, mix it up too. Make it legal, make it illegal. And give your city both varieties of it. Give them every flavor of art, because art is fun. And I've not been to a city yet that has no art in it. It may not be all painted art. It may be more statuesque and fountains and things like that, but it's still art. It could be modern art, contemporary art, and things like that. People doing famous things like that, or the random things that stupid kids do. That leads me into that final scenario. The fountains. Growing up, I had no idea what parkour was or free running. But when I moved to a new city and a new state, one of the first friends I met introduced me to both of them. And I exaggerated a little bit, making the fountains be in front of the school. That wasn't the case. My school was uptown and the fountains were downtown, near the Capitol. And one day we were wandering around town and he showed me them. They really weren't turned on and they were completely dry, but being kids, we decided to play on them. We would crawl on top of them, run around, try to jump over the different gaps and things like that. And I remember that there was one gap in particular that I never wanted to do. It scared me. And I didn't remember my friend doing it either. But we would go back every now and then and play on them. And one day, I decided I wasn't going to let fear overtake me. Mind you, I was very stupid this day. I wasn't even wearing tennis shoes. I was wearing sandals. And I crawl up on top of there and realize I can't run in sandals. So I take my sandals off and I'm just barefoot. I stand there at the edge of my concrete block and I run and I jump and I land hard and my feet hurt as I collided with the concrete. But I made the jump, the one jump that scared me completely. And I was impressed with myself, and my buddy was impressed with me too because I did it. So that goes to show that street art can lead to a lot of other things too, depending on what variety is. If your street art is not just painted and it's actually architecture based or fountains and things like that, your friends could just play on it and your kids and characters can play on it and make more friends like that. That's how they make a name for themselves. They show up to a new school and they make the jump that no one else wants to. It's definitely not a plot point or anything like that. It's just there, and that is how your character built a name for themselves. If you're doing a flashback of when your character showed up in town, maybe that's how they made all their friends. Or if you have the fountains out there, there's just the story that's being told around the school that there was a legend of a kid who actually made the jump that no one else has managed to do. And it was a new kid, and he just went down in history because schools like their legends and their fables and their stories of other kids who've left possibility there. When it comes to writing, world building is important. You don't want to focus too much on world building because that just becomes an information dump, but it needs to be there. And if you want a realistic world, you have to start including the other things in it, such as the street art. You have to include it or explain why it's not there. And again, you don't have to tell it directly in the book, but you have to have an answer for it, at least in your mind as the writer. Make it realistic, and your readers will love it. If you throw in the little hints here and there and tidbits of street art, it will bring your world to life. You don't have to make a town or a world that has every flavor out there. They don't have to have the gum wall and the fountains and the legal graffiti alleys and the commissioned muralists and everything and the statues around town. Because now you're going out of realism too. You're going too far into it because now it seems like your world is only art. It is not actual buildings and things. Now you've just left realism behind. So there's a balance too. If your city is large enough and a capital, you might have more things in there. But if you're a smaller city, you might not have all of that in there. So play around with it. But with that being said, it's getting to that time where I have to leave you behind, my friend. But before I do, I have a writing prompt for you. Write a story about an individual who decided to go see the famous gum wall. And they get there, as they're admiring it, a group of bullies comes up behind them, picks the person up, and sticks the character to the gum wall. And then they laugh and leave. And now your character is just stuck there on the wall. What happens next? Now, I don't care what genre you write, if it's horror, if it's fantasy, romance, or anything like that. And I don't care what format it is, if it's novel, short fiction, flash fiction, poetry even. All I really care about is that you make it your own and have fun with it. And if it ends up being something you can publish or submit to a magazine, sweet. If it's something you toss in a wastebasket, that's fine. As long as you had fun with it and made it your own, that's all I really care about again. And it really is time for me to let you go now. If you enjoyed the content of this week's episode, please like and subscribe. And if you have any writer friends out there, send them my way. I'd love to have them listening. And please be on the lookout for next episode where Jinx explores the world of weddings. Now have a good day. I know I will.